Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. I'm Elizabeth Townsend Guard, your host. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School. I also have 2 fellowships now, one at the Business School, a LePage Faculty Fellow, and one at the Newcomb Institute, the Greenbaum Fellowship, both at Tulane, and I just want to quilt. So today we're talking to Scott Jones. He's up in Washington State. He's made clothing for like 20 years. And he's now gotten into a open source, meaning a free pattern to make a mask that the doctors are saying to him is really good, especially for not nearly a replacement, but in case you don't have an N95 mask. So it's a different looking mask than the surgical masks, and we talked to him about it. We also have included the pattern, if this is something that interests you, as part of this podcast in the notes. So here it is, Scott Jones of Frontline Masks, and you can go to frontlinemasks.com if you want to take a look at it. Okay, hi. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Cool. Awesome. We'll go about like 20 minutes probably, I would imagine, say a quick hello. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I know at least one of the answers. And then we'll get into what you're doing and what you want to get out there. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. The first question's super easy. Tell me your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Scott Jones from Bellingham, Washington.
Awesome. And because this is Just Wanna Quilt, we ask everybody that comes on, do you have any memory of anyone sewing or quilting in your life?
Let's see. My first sewing project was a T-shirt with my mom in the 6th grade.
Yeah? Was it your first and your last?
No, it was my last until when I was 18, and then I started a clothing company called Beyond Clothing out of Eugene, and then it moved to Seattle, which was American-made custom cold weather clothing.
Nice.
And I ran that for 17 years and sold that company in 2012.
And so what are you doing now? Tell us what you're doing, and we're excited to have you here.
Thank you. So on Friday of last week, I was called up by a friend of ours who is a nurse at the local hospital, and she was on the verge of tears, scared that she wouldn't have a mask to wear the next time she went to work the following week. And I just felt that that wasn't acceptable. And so I felt that with the skills that I learned over the last decades that I could help. And I'd never really done anything with the shape of the face, but over the next 3 days, I designed a mask that would either cover or substitute an N95 mask, which is what is the most protective medical mask that you wear on a daily basis. And that's a mask that 95% of the time will block 0.3 micron items, which is what the coronavirus is. And so over those days, I developed that mask and developed it with other doctors and other nurses here locally. And that turned into Frontline Masks, which is not a business, but you can go to frontlinemasks.com.
Right. So if people are listening, just put in frontlinemasks.com, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And from there, you'll get a little bit of history. And what I've done in this case is, because this is incredibly important to get out there as quickly as we can, it's an open source pattern. And so,
explain what that is so people don't know. People may not know what an open source pattern is. So explain what that is.
Sounds good. An open source pattern, or an open source anything, that's a word that usually comes from software, is that it's available to the public. You can use it as it is, or you can make modifications as you see fit. We have developed this, and it's been recognized from medical professionals here locally, and so we do hope that people follow the directions closely, because it is a great product. But being open source and being that we want to get this out here, we're not charging anything for any part of the product. We just want to make sure that people can make the masks that will save lives.
It's very cool. Okay, so tell me, I am so glad you're on, because as quilters and as sewists, we've heard the call and we're ready to sew, but we're really freaked out about the many patterns that are out there. So explain a little bit more about the pattern and help us help the community?
Sure. So a lot of the masks that are out there, there's 2 or 3 completely different versions, and then there's many reiterations of those.
Right.
The one that is the Million Mask Challenge is a rectangular welted mask that is a copy of the surgical mask, which is rectangular. It has welts on the sides. It expands around the face.
Right.
It either goes around the ears with elastic or is possibly tied in the back.
And with
that's
those,
what everyone is making.
Yeah, a lot of people are making those. And what I'm and basically they're, a rectangle with 3 pleats, and they've sewn it in various ways, usually just 2 pieces of fabric. Did you find that's enough? Like, everyone's worried that they're making these and they're not enough. So when you looked at it, what did you find?
That's right. It isn't enough. So if you have air is like water, it's going to take the path of least resistance. And if you have an opening on the side of the mask, air is going to come from the side of the mask versus through the mask, which is where the filter is coming from. If you have anything blocking the air to come through the mask, such as a completely impenetrable fabric, like a waterproof shell type fabric, the air is going to come from around the side, therefore not providing any protection. The air has to be able to come through the filter. And so what this is, it's a round mask that covers the face. It seals from the nose to the chin, around the cheeks, and it has a filter that is inserted inside. So the cotton mask that we're asking people to make is only a vessel for a filter. And those filters are being sourced right now. Right now we are using HEPA-filtered vacuum bags, but we're hoping to find industrial-grade sources so that we can cut them on the roll instead of cutting vacuum bags on their own. And so that's why this mask is different, in that it's cotton and easily sewn by home sewers, but it is a sealed product around the face. It keeps the mask away from the mouth, which makes it comfortable to wear for 4, 6, 8, 10 hours. And then the filter inside is what truly blocks the virus.
Okay, so if you're making these and you don't have access to the filter, is this still a good mask to be making? Or how, I know exactly what everyone's going to be like. Well, what's the filter? How do I get the filter? I want to make this today. Sort of, what are you suggesting to people?
So you can use pretty much, if you're going to get accepted, as we are getting accepted into the hospital programs of local hospitals, you're going to have to meet certain restrictions, and you're going to have to get down to a micron level that truly is proven as safe. But for the everyday person who's helping the first responder, who's helping their moms and their dads and the patients and the general everyday doctor that is just going to possibly come across a person with a virus, that you can use paper vacuum bags that are going to be available at the local hardware store or in your closet. Some people are using coffee filters. I wouldn't recommend that, but these are still filters that can be used inside this mask to keep people safe, because the vessel that's coming from the patient, from the coronavirus person, the sick person, that water droplet is much larger than 0.3 microns. And so any one of the things that I listed will give you some sense of protection, far more than the rectangular surgical mask fabrics that are made of cotton right now, that so many home sewers are wonderfully making, but they're just not offering the protection that the true first frontline folks truly need, and that's what this mask does.
Okay, I have so many questions. First, we have heard very different things about coffee filters and vacuum things, and also interfacing or putting something at, there's a lot of information out there that's conflicting, and I'm not sure how to help people know what to do in terms of can we figure out something that's you can do this and you shouldn't be afraid of hurting people. That's the biggest problem that I'm finding, is that the idea of putting a piece of a vacuum bag into a mask freaks people out. So tell me what we should be telling a huge amount of people right now.
So great concerns. And that's my number one concern too, because I don't want to be doing this and all of a sudden having people feel that they're protected and not be. The number one thing that we need now is the labor to make the cotton masks, because that's going to be what takes the longest. We're hoping to be able to have a standardized accepted filter system available soon, so that people can either go to their store or get it from a supplier that is recognized as being the filter to have. And what's nice about this is that once that filter is cut, they're going to be easily installed into the mask. And so they can come a week or 2 or 3 weeks from now. But the thing that's going to take the longest to do is the cotton mask itself.
Got it.
On top of that, though, the bad thing is that they're going to need at least 1 filter per day.
Yeah.
If not 3 to 4, depending on the use.
Got it. Do you think that the surgical masks we're making now, if people are getting those masks, like some hospitals are requiring those masks right now, and so should we be putting a pocket in it so that if they finally do get filters, they could put a filter into those? Or it's just a lot of chaos right now in our little community of how to help?
I'm
you're
really
leery of that, right?
I am. Well, I've talked to the doctors and I've talked to the nurses, and they said I wouldn't want to wear that in my profession right now with the people that I'm seeing. These people are helping folks give birth. These people are dealing with emergency room situations where things get really messy.
Yeah.
And those masks, if you look at them and you put them on, you're going to find huge gaps between the nose and the mask, the cheeks and the mask, the chin.
Yeah.
And this frontline mask doesn't have any of those sealant issues. I'm not saying that people should stop making those other masks, but I do want people to take a look at something new and fresh and thinking outside the box. And that's what this mask has.
Awesome. The filter, I'm looking at the pattern now. It doesn't look terribly hard. I mean, it looks like you need to know how to sew to do it. It's a little bit more complicated than the other one, but not terrible. I mean, and we're quilters. We know how to do stuff. The wire metal insert, what are you suggesting for that? We have had a lot of conversations over the last 5 days over, because we're trying to use the stuff we have in the house. So, do our pipe cleaners okay? Our jewelry making, yes. Look that's all your multi-purpose.
So that is 16 gauge multi-purpose wire that I got from Home Depot.
Wow, that's really thick. Is it bendy?
It's very bendy. That's the biggest concern. It has to be malleable.
Yeah.
And so at first, my first rendition that happened on Sunday morning was a clothes hanger, and you couldn't even bend it with a tin snip. It was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
That's what a clothes hanger is supposed to do.
Yeah.
But in this case, this 16 gauge, people can't even feel it on their nose. It's so malleable that you can just press it against your face.
Yeah.
And it will mold to your nose shape and to your cheek shape.
Yeah. All right. So you're an industry guy. Like like you've had we are happy to be helping out, but we feel really uncomfortable with the fact that like regular sewers are having to make these masks. Do you feel like industry is going to come in, and is this just a gap, or are we going to be quilting? I mean, are we going to be making masks for a long time?
One of the things that came to mind when I was doing this is I sure would love to be disappointed and have this whole project be for naught, meaning that we found a solution to not need these masks. That would be incredible, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. The entire industry has stepped forward and are making, from various medically accepted fabrics, the rectangular surgical mask.
That's great.
And they're making tens of thousands of them, and they are going to protect folks who need the protection. We are going to be running out of N95s, though.
Yeah, and those are different.
Are different shapes and are not what the true doctors who are in the field need.
Right.
And that's my biggest concern, because to get even my local home sewers here in Bellingham to switch over from the rectangle to this new idea, like you said, it's not that much more difficult, is proving to be an incredible challenge. And it's very frustrating. But I feel that if we continue to have these conversations, we'll recognize the importance of this type of mask and switch over.
Got it. Okay, well, we will try it. Okay, here's my worries, because I want our army to help you. And so we've got 2 different things. We've got our million masks a day, which is growing, and then we've got 3,000 people who are part of the quilting army with my project. I don't know how many will volunteer, but let's see if we can get people to try this. Okay, so if we make them, what do we do then? Because the hospitals aren't necessarily accepting this. Do we send them to you? What do we do with them once we get them made? And again, the filter thing, since we don't have filters right now, what do you want us to be doing on the filter side?
Sure, and it actually comes up with the wire too. Some people have said, hey, I don't have any wire.
Right.
That's fine. You don't have to have the wire because that is installed after the fact. The instructions portray how to put the final stitch of the tubing in to make the wire pocket.
Yeah.
And even if that is left off, that's fine too.
Yeah.
If we can get a 98% solution back into our hands, that would help us tremendously. I do want people to have these go to their local communities.
Yeah.
But if their local communities aren't going to accept them because they're too, say, revolutionary,
right.
then we're 100 miles from one of the hot spots.
Yeah, we're a hot spot too. I'm in New Orleans, so this is
okay.
So we're freaking out because we're a little behind you, but we're rising fast.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, but I feel that the amount of doctors, every single one who has seen this has said, this is what I want. I want to buy one today. And I said, I'm not selling them.
Yeah.
But I know that this is going to be a solution that's going to be accepted. So if we can get ahead of the curve and not behind the curve like we've been for so long and get these made and then have them distributed to one location or have them in multiple locations, then when we need a shipment to go somewhere, we have your army ship them there. Yeah. And then the filters are installed and we're ready to go.
Got it.
But this infrastructure that's going to take time, even with your army of using their own fabrics, is going to take at least a few days to get going. I know. But we need to start now.
I know. We need them now. Okay. So I know I'm going to ask the filter question again, but I just know what they're going to ask back. Have you looked at any of the sewing things that we have already, like interface or stabilizer or any of these sort of things that we add to embroidery machines and embroidery stuff? I don't know if you're familiar with any of that, but we all have that, absolutely. And so could we use that as filters? Because they're non-woven. They're better than coffee. They've got to be better than coffee filters, but maybe not. I don't know.
So there's the balance between not breathability, but airflow and micron level.
Right.
And amazingly enough, when I finally got my vacuum bag HEPA filter in the mail a couple days ago, I couldn't believe how much air flowed through this filter. But it truly is a HEPA filter, which is a low point micron level filter. Yeah. And so you need that porousness that is so small that none of the Pellons or embroidery type knit wovens will work.
Got it.
And so it's not going to block what you need.
Got it.
You're going to get a little bit less airflow in a coffee filter, and I wouldn't say a coffee filter. I think a vacuum cleaner bag is so far better than a coffee filter.
Yeah.
But we're talking about drastic times here for people who may not have anything covering their mouths.
Right. And I mean, I'm thinking of like, we're all stuck at home, so we can't go out and get stuff. And Amazon's now taking 3 to 4 weeks to get things. So I'm trying to sort of think about our population, who I know what we have, right? We have the other thing, we're running out of elastic. We're already running out of elastic, and we can't even get it anywhere.
Elastic.
Yeah.
On the elastic part, I'm not using elastic. So the doctors that are in the field requiring this type of mask are asking for ties around the back of the head and around the neck.
Okay.
And that's what the instructions portray.
Fabulous.
So, and you can use the self fabric that is a part of the mask. But I just got a great idea from a fellow sewer here locally, and they're using twill tape.
Right. Did you say twill tape?
That's correct.
Got it.
And so for the back head tie, both for the top and the bottom of the mask, twill tape takes off possibly 20 to 30% of the total labor of the mask.
That's really great. And we've been doing bias tape because we do bias tape for quilts all the time, so we know how to make that pretty efficiently.
That's great. If anyone has binder mechanisms on their straight stitch, that would be just as fast.
Yeah. I also got we reached out to Pellon, who makes interfaces, and they sent us some information. I don't know if you have it, but I can forward it on to you about what their interfaces are, which they know sort of how much goes through them or what they're suggesting to people in terms of that stuff. So, okay. So we're going to make a pocket. You're going to be able to put something in it. We don't know what exactly you're going to put in it, but we're going to either put the coffee filters or if you have things that to put in it, but that may be ramping up. We also are applying for a grant. I'm at Tulane University. I'm a law professor at Tulane University, and one of the students is applying for a grant today to help get the students up and running. And I would love, we need we need a faculty member, that would be me, and an outside group. So since I would love for you to be part of that, and then we would also be trying to get students to make them as well, if you're interested in being one of our groups that we work with, because we're looking for something. And I think it's really fascinating. All right. What else? Anything else? You've been in this. Have you been quarantined for a while, or sort of? Yes, you're ahead of us.
Yeah.
How are things?
My family. Well, sadly, I really love our governor, but he did not shut the state down soon enough. I could not believe my family has been in essentially quarantine for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
But we had people partying at the lakes up until 2 days ago.
I know. It was awful. St. Patrick's Day weekend was horrid because all these tourists came in and were partying in the French Quarter, and then they were all going home. Like, I couldn't,
Yes.
like, we, as locals, we were shocked by all of it, that, like, this was allowed to happen. It was terrible. It was so terrible.
Mm-hmm. And I think that either we're going to be lucky, but probably not, because they say all of a sudden that all these new tests are coming back saying that we have huge new positives of the virus, but there's so many more out there, and they just don't even know that they have it yet.
Right. It's very scary. Well, Washington's been ahead of everybody in terms of all this. I saw something yesterday. I don't know if how do you know what's I saw something on Facebook that Santa Clara Valley had started to flatten their curve, which was my family's there, so that made me super happy. But we all are trying so hard to do our part, and these are trying times.
They are. And I think that even if these masks hopefully are not fully used, this is going to happen again. And if we can have this type of system in place and a few products in place also for those who truly need it, they'll know what to do, and we'll have the system in place to be able to solve it much more quickly.
And I think, I'm thinking about your mask. Your mask is a replacement for the N95, right? 95, am I right? 94, 95?
It's called the N95. I'm not calling it a replacement. I'm calling it a substitute in case of a lack of.
But it's better than the surgical masks.
I believe so, and that's what the doctors have been telling me. The seal around the face is what gives it the protection, and then the filter inside does the work.
Okay, so I think, we're hearing that the surgical masks that people are making aren't being used for COVID-19 patients, but they're being able to put them on other places so that they can sort of stockpile the masks that would have been going in different places. So like so that it's trying to relieve the stress. So again, I think people out there listening, please don't panic that you're making the wrong masks, because everyone's going to be freaking out, and we don't need to freak out. So you're making the mask that the hospitals are asking for. What Scott is saying is that he's made a really cool one that may even be better and more protective. So if you want to start to try to make this one, go for it. But don't freak out. Like, masks, keep making masks, and we're going to try to make as many as we possibly can. But I think the point is to make the masks, not freak out about which one to make for 5 days or 8 days. Like, I think just jump in, because I know the quilters, they're very nervous about doing harm. Like, we're all about like cuddly, quilty blankets for people. So I know there's a lot of hesitation. But if you want to try a more interesting mask, you're bored with the surgical mask, this is a really interesting pattern. I'll post this on our Facebook group and on our webpage, so you all can sort of take a look at it, and also be on the interview itself. We'll post the link on the podcast. So, wow, your days are probably long and crazy.
They are. I would look forward to a nap.
Me too. Yes, I've been encouraging people to nap because it's too much. It just never stops. Anything else that we should know?
No, and if you want to have the conversation online, it's facebook.com/frontline masks.
Cool.
Frontline masks.
Frontline masks. We will we'll connect with you. So that was great, and we'll send people to you as well. So if they have questions. So are you having people post the masks they make on your Facebook page? Are you encouraging that? Do you want that?
I would like that.
Okay,
yep,
cool.
Because then we can learn from them whether they do it right or wrong. We can always learn about.
All right, so Quilting Army, the Facebook group, your Facebook group online is, or your page is Frontline Masks. So if you make one of these, let's post it and let's help people learn how to make these and get it out there. So we'll see how it goes. I really do appreciate your time today. This is, I know, busy, and but it's important for us to hear from you and others about how we can help.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Are you okay with me posting this, or do you need to review it?
No, go ahead.
All right, fabulous. All right, cool. Hold on just a second. So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Gard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.